Good evening, everyone. I've been chosen, elected, appointed, or whatever. I'm kicking and screaming to do the opening this evening, which is kind of cool because we are starting a new school year in just a few days, so it's kind of neat to be part of that excitement. So what I'd like to do today is to first watch a quick TED Serious video. It is about 7 minutes, but trust me, it's a quick view through. It's inspiring, and then I'll take only about 2 minutes to make comments to add to that. So I'm not going to take all. It will be less than 10 minutes, and then I should be out of here, and the program or the meeting will start. Okay, we're ready.
Spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good, some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson, the kids should learn it, I should teach it, they should learn it, case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class. Because I am the best teacher and you are the best students, they put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise, you just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so, I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
Well, I just have to kind of gather myself up after that. I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And part of the reason I wanted to show that, because some people are probably wondering, well, this is the school board, and what are we doing talking about teachers and what they do? And really at the heart of it, I think that idea of relationships, both at the teacher level. I mean, a relationship where a teacher could be with the student, but also with the parent. Because if they're a champion of that child, they're also a champion of the parent to make them a better parent and to get them to do the things they need to do at home. If you're a champion as far as administration, there it goes to a whole other level, because now you have students that you can inspire, which is why, from what I've heard as far as the best loved jobs of all jobs is to be a principal, is that you have the ability to inspire and to be a champion to those students under your helm, but also the teachers, because those teachers are human beings too, and they need a relationship. And finally, the school board. The school board kind of helps to mesh everything together, because through our budgets, and we argue, and should we raise taxes, should we cut this thing? And I look through those things and say that our relationship is to help to inspire both the administration and the teachers to do the jobs that they need to do to inspire our children. And I'll say one thing, there's always people that put down teachers and they pay too much, get the summer off and stuff like that. Well, let me tell you about my summer. Because I'm a softie, as most of you know, I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. And so the summer ended, my first year back in the classroom after 24 years in second grade. And for 9 months, I had these kids that I absolutely loved. And so it was literally a shock to my body and my soul when at the end of the year, I didn't get to see them every day anymore. So finally, after 3 weeks of going through it, my wife saying, "What is wrong?" And so finally, after 3 weeks, I went back to sat in the classroom, kind of gel a little bit. And so that next day, or that evening, my wife said, "You were in the classroom today, weren't you?" I said, "Yeah, I couldn't resist." Because as teachers, when you become that champion, and I'm not saying that I am a great champion, I'm just saying that as teachers in general become champions, they do make that connection with our children. I've always been a proponent of technology is great, but it's never going to ever replace that one-on-one connection that the teacher or an administrator has with that child. That is going to be the most. That's why coaching is such a powerful thing to do if you're in coaching, because you have that ability to actually impart part of you and to show that child that they are worth it and that they have the ability and that they have the potential to do great things. So I don't want to go too far longer. I think I could keep it to like 10 minutes, maybe 2-3 minutes longer. Thank you very much. Let's stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And thank you for my AD guy for helping me with the slide projector.
I know you weren't talking to me on that.
Thank you very, very much, Director Gray, for a educational, stimulating, provocative, getting us thinking, great start to the school year. So, thanks, Matt. Okay, now we'd like to call the meeting to order of the Northern Lebanon School District School Board. And Mary, would you please roll call?
Okay, we have absent tonight Arnold, England, and Lund. The other 6 members are here.
So, we have enough members here to conduct business. Okay, moving on to the approval of minutes. Everybody should have received them. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Second.
Motion on the floor, any discussion? Motion on the floor to accept the minutes as printed. All those in favor say aye. Okay, we're going to try this one more time because the voice vote is good enough on this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. All right, minutes are. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda. Does anybody have any corrections that they want to make to the agenda?
I've had a request to move item A1 out of the management program to be a separate vote. If I have any objections, I'll make it as an editorial change.
Any other additions, changes? Okay, if not, Dan or Dr. Martell, you've made a motion to present the agenda as corrected.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ready for our agenda. Administrative reports, there won't be any this evening. Special presentations, none for this evening. Any old business? Not, we'll move on to the public input session. I have 3 requests. For those of you who are new here and haven't been here for when we've done this before, currently residents are allowed to present, and they have 5 minutes. Dan will be timing us, and at this point the board members, we will be listening, only I will address the people speaking, and we will not be commenting on the items of discussion at this point. And that's according to our board policy. Okay, first up, I think Stacy would first one, Stacy Murray, and our topic would be curriculum and communications.
Thank you. My name is Stacy Murray. I'm from 165 Twin Creeks in Jonestown. I'm a social worker by trade and a social worker at heart. This is where my passions lie, to serve children and to serve families. I'm not here just for one child or two children, but I'm here for all the children and families that are within this school district. It's with this in mind that I wanted to discuss curriculum and also communication. I want to keep our curriculum in the forefront of our minds. Last fall, parents came together to the board with concerns about curriculum being used in the elementary schools and weighted grades. It was voted on by the board to remove the weight, and it was asked if the weighted grade was removed, would we still be here? The answer was then and is now, yes, we're here and we will continue to be. We saw a huge issue with materials being taught at our district, and I can assume the board saw those same issues. The problem seemed to be resolved when the board did vote to stop the weighted grade, but in many of our minds, it wasn't. The material was still used for the rest of the school year, although it was not weighted. And I've learned that 1 year of bad curriculum and materials can take 2 years to undo. So why was the board so hesitant to move forward and fix the issue? Many of the comments consisted of we didn't vote the material in, so we're not sure we can vote to remove it. I don't understand this logic. I don't understand that when we see a problem and we're trying to resolve it, we can't just do that, resolve the problem. It's like saying, I didn't start the fire, so I can't put it out. It's time to put out the fire. It's time to renew this curriculum. Teachers were asked about the material, and teachers directed us to the principal. The principal directed us to the elementary education director. The director directed the questions and directed that issue to the board. The board didn't want to micromanage. I'm confused as to where the management is at all. I don't see leadership that encourages one to stand up and take steps to correct the problem. Everyone seems to be afraid to admit there is a problem. But honestly, I do not see this curriculum issue as a failure. The failure is when we have the tools and we have the knowledge, but we refuse to fix the problem. Northern Lebanon has incredibly successful graduates. We have incredibly talented students and faculty now. We need to give our students the materials that they need to be helpful and encouraging them in their journey here as students. I'd also like to address communication. There was a statement by Dr. Bell in the Viking Voice that he would like to open up the lines of communication. I was very excited about the lines of communication being open, as it's been a hot-button issue for me for many years. I thought this would mean that we'd see more upcoming events, more activities being posted on social media. Unfortunately, this has not been the type of communication that we're seeing. I would like to impress upon the board to continue to enforce communication being posted on social media so that we might be able to see more things and more information that our families want to know about. I just talked to a community member tonight who said she just wanted to double check the first day of school, and it wasn't posted on the Facebook page, and it wasn't posted on any of the websites. She had to pull a newsletter to get that first day of school. So to see that change. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy, for your comments. Next up, Rachel Sekelic, and she will be talking about general concerns.
Rachel Sekelic, 109 Blackberry Lane. I would love to take this time to discuss your revisions to the 903 policy, but unfortunately I didn't have that information in time, so I'm going to talk about something else. I've been asked quite frequently why I am so involved in our district's inner working. It's a question I get asked, and I figured, why not tell it here? My involvement comes from a very personal place. I'm an example of what can happen when a district forgets about the students in between. The students that aren't the overachievers or the underachievers, but are simply trying to get through high school. I am an example of what happens when bad administrators are put into positions they are not qualified for. When administrators are more focused on advancing their own careers than they are on the students they are supposed to be focused on. I am a high school dropout. I made it to my senior year of high school, and unfortunately, due to a change in guidance counselors, I had no one to help me when I needed it the most. The teacher that filled the position after our guidance counselor retired was more focused on becoming the school's principal than he wasn't actually guiding the students in our district. There had been a mistake made when I was a freshman and I lacked a few key class credits to graduate. Instead of working with me to try and fix the problem, I was persuaded to sign myself out because I was 18 and didn't need my parents' permission. The guidance counselor emphasized how easy it would be to get my GED and not bother with taking the time for the credits. At 18, I was still desperately in need of guidance, but I wasn't receiving it at school or at home. So I signed the papers and left school with only a few months left. I would later learn that it would have been very simple for me to take a few online credits, and I would have been able to graduate with my class. This is a mistake I will never be able to correct, and one that should have never been made. A class of less than 30 students saw 4 dropouts that year. These mistakes were not just the students' mistakes, they were also the districts that failed them. It was poor decisions with administration and other problems that would eventually shut my school down. My high school no longer exists. I see so many similarities in northern Lebanon that it scares me. I left Tioga County when I had my son because I promised he would have a better chance to succeed, and he wouldn't get that in my old school district. So today I am here as a parent who refuses to just sit back and let this happen. I'm not a bored housewife on a vengeful mission to take down Dr. Bell or tarnish the reputation of the great students we have. I never expected to see the corruption we found in those right-to-know requests. After seeing the lack of accountability, it became impossible to turn away. I refuse to give up on this district and will continue to push for change. I know what happens when a district claims to put kids first, but actually only puts certain kids first and the rest are forgotten. I don't believe it's too late, and I will do whatever I can in the upcoming months to ensure that when we say kids first, we truly mean it. It would have taken one person to tell me, you matter, and my life could have been completely changed. I took a very hard path to get where I am in life, and I won't sit back and ignore those kids who are preparing to walk the same hard road. Ignoring our mistakes can and will hurt us. We can celebrate our successes, but it's time to acknowledge that we can do better, and the first step to doing better is to start admitting our mistakes. I am not defined by my mistakes, but I have learned great things from them. It would be much easier to skip that part of my life and only speak of my successes, but that wouldn't have helped anyone. So making my mistakes was better than faking perfections.
Thank you for your comments, Rachel. And that brings us to our last request, and that would be for Nathaniel Finken, topics board agenda.
Good evening, Nathaniel Finken, 207 East Hazel Street. I came to tonight's meeting excited. This morning's Facebook page highlighted how Samantha Shea, a 2013 graduate, had been awarded a National Miss at the ANSO pageant. And I thought, that's terrific. And not only is that terrific, but that's exactly the kind of information we should be seeing on our district Facebook page. We should absolutely be celebrating the achievements of our former students, and there are a lot. We're on the right track. And then I got here tonight, and I saw our agenda. And I see this minor item, Management Committee, item C, move for the tentative adoption of revised policy 903, public participation in board meetings. I can't wait to find out what that means, but one can only surmise that it's going to alter what has been the common practice, which is for us to have 5 minutes to speak in an open forum to speak online. After last meeting, when I brought to light various statistics that really reinforce the notion that the district has academic issues, it got me thinking about a quote that is attributed to Gandhi, but was actually made by a labor leader in the early 1900s. And it's talking about a social movement. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And so I can't help but think about the last 6 months, really since Gary Bouchette was dismissed. Makes me think about Jack Byler, makes me think about a lot of things that have happened here lately. and how these concerns from the public were ignored and mocked and fought, and that leads us to where we are today. Make no mistake, there is a social movement afoot in the Northern Lebanon School District. There is a groundswell of support championing change. The people who pay taxes in this district and the people who send their kids to this district are not happy with the performance, condition, or leadership of this school district. This is not something that's going to go away. This is not something that happened all of a sudden. For those that are students of history, when you think about the storming of the Bastille, the day before the storming of the Bastille, everything wasn't fine in France. And the day before Gary Bouchette was dismissed, everything wasn't fine in the Northern Lebanon School District. So we have been ignored, we've been laughed at and ridiculed, we've been fought, and now the groundswell of support is going to win. We will get the change we are demanding. There is a tidal wave standing at the door of this district. And to continue the metaphor, when a tidal wave comes, there's one of two things you can do if you're in the way of it. You can get out of the way, you can be moved out of the way. And that is what's going to happen here. The public is demanding a better district, a more accountable leadership, a more responsive leadership. The taxpayers are demanding more prudent use of the dollars that we contribute to the stewardship of this district. These changes will happen, whether the people in this room are going to be part of the change or going to be moved out of the way to enable the change. That's up for everybody to decide upon themselves. But make no mistake, this change is coming. It will happen. I encourage everybody to get on board or get out of the way. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Finken. And I want to correct one mistake that I've done already this evening, and I'll probably make more yet. I did need to announce that we did hold an executive session at 6:30 prior to this evening's meeting, at which point we were discussing personnel. So I'm sorry that I had not mentioned that earlier. We're going to move on now to the consensus agenda. Director Martell, would you take care of that?
Consensus agenda, I move it.
I'll second it.
I think it's the point where I'm supposed to say discussion, and I'm sorry. You know, you really got me in big trouble here now. I'm really apologize.
I asked you to do consensus agenda.
All right, any discussion on the consensus agenda? If not, Mary, please call the roll call.
Yes?
Bixler,
Yes.
Sal, Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
All in favor?
We're going to move on to the management committee now.
Agenda management, I move items A2 through 11. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion? Not Mary. Roll call vote, please.
Bixler,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
All in favor?
I'll go back and move item A1.
Second it.
Any discussion? Not? Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner,
Abstain.
Gray,
Yes.
Bixler.
Yes.
5 and 1 abstention.
And now that everybody who was flipping through their pages to find out A1, I'm happy to be related to the person, so I proved that I took myself out of the vote. Okay? I was hearing all this rustling, and I thought we better offer something up. All right. Okay, please.
Move item B.
Second it.
Discussion.
not, vote please. Count.
Yes.
Martell.
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Bixler.
Yes.
Sal.
Yes.
All in favor.
Move item C.
Second?
Discussion.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
And this was management committee, so. Sure.
And there's also a concern this evening that they solved it. I'm assuming that the public has seen this and is concerned that this is a vote that will happen this evening. As with all policies, there is a first reading, discussion, plenty of time for input, more from the board, more from the public. And this is our first time we were discussing it because we did not have a committee meeting last week because we deferred to the National Night Out.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you saying this was available to the public? Is that what you just
This
said?
has not
been available.
yet been available to the public.
Okay, and my biggest reservation here is just, I feel like I'm not prepared to make this, but I certainly would like to hear, since management worked hard on this, what the thoughts are, if you can kind of walk us through, give the history, the research that you've done. Bill?
Basically, this is, PSBA has sample policies, and this is one of the policies that puts us more in line with what they're recommending. I'll start with that. There's some checklists on it, and we pretty much check most of them. As a tentative policy, it is not in stone right now. It is basically a working document for us to move ahead. That's it.
And we did check with PSBA, and actually when you sent me to the president's workshop was when I realized how far out of line actually we are with school board, Pennsylvania State school board policies. We also did checking with what happens in the rest of the county and districts outside our county in the IU. And there again, we found that we were not quite where I think we should be. And I was the one who was actually saying that we should be looking over this and seeing what we need to do.
And can you just give a little background, just because this is new to me as a board member, maybe even for the public, just to what prompted this and what specifically you feel like we're out of line with?
Sure. It's very, very, I mean, you've heard me say this how many times. It is very important, it is vital that we hear from the public. Okay. Having said that, I sat in a meeting where the public talked to us, brought up good points that I think we really needed to examine, points I thought, I'm not so sure about, but it went on for 2 hours. And if you looked at our agenda, we had some items on that agenda, one of which was a letter that Bell and Evans was asking for. So there were 2 lawyers that sat here for 2 hours of things that were not necessarily on the agenda when they were on the agenda. And I think we owe it to, I think we were very irresponsible for not taking them or considering them as being very important, because not just because of what they're going to do to our community, just because it was kind of rude because they were on the agenda and had to wait through 2 hours of good comments or bad comments, it doesn't matter. They had to wait for 2 hours. So that was part of my thought that when I started asking other school districts, what are you doing? How do you handle this? You need to be sensitive to everybody involved, both the public and items that would be on the agenda. So that's when we started examining what we had in place, and it really wasn't very satisfying what I found that we were doing. So one of the items on here, and I believe Mr. Finken did mention it this evening, we do allow 5 minutes. I don't think you can find anybody else that allows 5 minutes. 3 minutes is pretty much the standard, if not the rule.
And the new would be 3 minutes.
That is correct. In checking with PSBA, the other school districts, agenda items, I mean, frankly, this is a business meeting. We have to conduct our business first, in my opinion, and I hope in everybody's opinion here. We need to address our agenda items first. If somebody has a comment on an agenda item, they need to have priority. Now, some of the things were mentioned here tonight were good topics, not necessarily on our agenda. So we're asking, we're saying, we still need to be listening to that. Let's take care of our agenda first. When we get that all out of the way, do our business, then we want to hear from the public at the conclusion of the meeting.
I think I'm okay with that, and I know one of the things that you, as guidance tonight, I wrote it down. The purpose is to deliberate and to review action items, I believe is how we referenced it.
I mean, the Sunshine Act with regard to the requirements of public participation is to provide a reasonable opportunity for taxpayers and residents to address the board on items. What President is referring to is it's commonplace in other districts where they have a dedicated public comment at essentially the beginning of the meeting to allow for taxpayers and residents to comment on items that are listed in the agenda, and then a second public comment period after the working agenda has been concluded to receive any other comments on non-agenda items.
Now, one thing
considered the sense.
One thing that's stated in here is, if it's my understanding, is for this second round of public input, then we would have the opportunity to kind of cut it off. Did I read that correctly? That if the majority of the board approves.
Are you asking that? One of the statements that we had found is if there's 10 people that are going to come to your meeting and say pretty much the exact same thing, is that what you're referring to?
Now, there was a part in here where it said if the majority vote, I'll find it.
If the president said something and the majority, the rest of the board could say, shut up, so we want to talk about something different, we think we should allow that, you could say that. I think that's what you're referring to.
I'll have to find it. The other thing that I definitely have a concern with is the 5-day notification to the board secretary prior. I did not even have the most current agenda. I looked at it this afternoon, but I know it was even updated since I had reviewed it. So my concern would be that are we giving the public sufficient time to be able to review the agenda and then formulate their thoughts, be able to do research, and then contact the secretary.
And that was a concern of management too, and stop me again if I'm saying anything wrong here. It's kind of like we took all these ideas, okay, let's put them all here, and then if we don't like something, it's a lot easier to be striking it off as we're working through this document than, hey, there's something we missed, and now we're in trouble, we have to go back and find it, reinvent it. And we too shared that concern.
The portion of the meeting during which the public is invited to speak shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes.
And that was one of those, we put in a time, is that sufficient time? That's for us to discuss right here. We need to put in some time in this document for us to discuss now and figure out if that's what we want. Because remember, this is, as I said before, we have to come with something to present to you for a first reading, just as our curriculum. First reading means, even if you voted on this tonight, we could go to committee meeting, if you voted in the affirmative, we could go to our committee meeting, and we will, in September, and we could just be ripping this all apart again, so we have a document ready to vote on again in September's board meeting.
I'm good with the process of putting it all in and then talking about it, but in terms of an official vote, my vote tonight would just be no. It has to be no, because I feel like, I've worked on big ticket items of dress code, homework policy, and I feel like there was so much process of research going on behind this final copy to the board to be able to talk through. I feel like this is the draft that's been brought to us as a draft for an official vote. So I am absolutely a no vote on
And
this.
you're fine, that's
Yeah.
fine, that's,
No, I know, I'm good. So I feel like my questions have been asked, so I don't want to keep belaboring it, but I can pretty much put it off, you know.
Okay, can I throw some comments in? Okay, well, two things, definitely. The first one, when I first heard that 5-day waiting period, just, I don't know, it to me it would stifle public input, but if anything, and almost do the opposite, I think, of what, what our goal is to encourage public input. Having a 5-day waiting period before you can speak to the board, I think that's kind of, for me, it would be a non-starter. It would be saying to the public that, if you hear something on a Monday night at dinner with friends and you want to voice your opinion the next day at the board meeting, that you literally have to wait till the next month and maybe the issue is then a non-issue. So to me, I don't see that what we have done here. Yes, we had a lot of people that came that day, and to me, I thought that was a good thing. It actually got people out and expressing their opinions and telling us the issues that they see from their perspective, and I think that's helpful for us as a board. And so the length of time that took to me was not an issue. So the second part about having a time limit, I think would be, to me, I just can't see why you would have a time limit. Even if you had 10 people that are going to say basically the same thing, which one has the right as a citizen of this community to voice that opinion and not somebody else? I mean, how do you make that decision? Well, we want you to say it, but everyone else, even if you're going to say basically the same thing. Part of public input is that the public gets to vent their frustrations about what is going on in the community. And to deny them that is just going to fester more discontent in the community. So to me, when I was in sales, if a person started to vent, you let them vent. You let them get it out. You let them get what is bothering them so you can get to the core issue of what is going to make them happy or what are their real concerns. And just to say, well, only one person is going to be able to say that really diminishes the purpose of, to me, public input. And that is that anybody, regardless of background or educational level or anything, can get up to that podium and tell us their perspective of our school district. And that is invaluable to me in making a decision. I wouldn't want to cut that.
would you always want to have that at the beginning of the meeting?
No, I have no problem at all with having a
So it was just the amount.
It's just
the amount of time.
the idea that we would either eliminate the amount of time and or that we would say, well, these people on the green slips are all talking about exactly the same thing. They seem like they have the same perspective. So, and I don't know if that's in that. I couldn't get my computer up here to get on the internet. So, but that idea of not letting everyone have input at a public meeting, I think, wow, that just scares me. Literally
As
just
you
scares me.
said, we put everything in here.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, so I'm just telling you from over here, I'm one of 9, this is how.
You're very lonely over there.
I
Glenn.
know.
Well, I was wondering that too.
But, what I'm saying is I'm just giving you my 2 cents. So that's, I'm not, and I will not vote for it tonight also, just because to say yes is kind of like saying, yeah, we kind of agree with that. I'll wait till it kind of matures before.
So if the discussion, and I should shut up too much, we talk, but if the discussion is right away, as we know tonight, we want to strike something out.
If it's
Where's the
changed,
messages?
if it's changed tonight, I don't know that you can, I thought that this was like, this is what we're voting on. But if you want to
It's,
change it, but still, it's
Look
not.
down at 2.
I don't want to be too much of a stickler on parliamentary rules. If someone wants to make a friendly motion, allow for a change to the draft policy, that's okay with the rest of the board members. That's entirely appropriate.
and even if we do pass something tonight,
It
it's
would
still
still be
up
the
for
first,
discussion and ready
essentially
to
the
go.
first reading for final consideration. Thank you.
I kind of agree with Glenn. I'd kind of like to understand, I mean, you represent a lot of school districts, and I imagine that many of them follow the school boards association's recommendations. Do you know the history of why there's a 5-day advance notice and why they would want to cap public input?
I can't speak to why that particular item's been in place. I mean, if you look at policies, and there was a time I worked at PSDA years ago. So that's been a sort of a decades long.
And it might have been one that we pulled from another district.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to put this in context with the board and for those in the audience, PSBA, the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, runs a policy service for districts where they develop, in some cases, model policies that they recommend for districts, and then there's options you can select. Another thing that they do for districts that participate is they also provide sample policies. Samples aren't necessarily the model policy, and so you may have received some samples and said, well, I like this, and I like this, and or hey, this is something worthy of discussion. But with regards to the notice requirement, I think the genesis of that is probably twofold. One is a public comment period. In order to qualify for that, technically, there's only two folks that can do that under the Sunshine Act. You have to be a taxpayer or you have to be a resident. So in some respects, and again, I'm speculating, some folks may have said, well, gee, this is a way to determine if someone is in fact eligible to address the board in a sunshine session for public participation. The second thing I imagine is that some districts like to know how many folks might be coming out because, and I'm sure your district has done this and other clients that this has happened. If they know a lot of people are coming out publicly, they may switch to a larger room. They make sure they have suitable facilities for the public, and they're otherwise prepared to address this thing. I remember years ago, I had a district where we had a teacher strike. We had 500 people in a very crowded auditorium. Many people wanted to speak to that issue. They had an advance notice thing, and that board decided to pare down the agenda that night because they knew that many people wanted to talk on a very contentious issue in the community, and that was more important than some of the things on the agenda. So there may be a lot of motivations on the notice piece, but ultimately it's for the board to decide how much advance notice you could have. So whether it be 5 days or no days, or if you show up tonight, just like some, I guess these folks did, fill out a green slip. That's your prerogative, and those are the choices you can make.
One other tail end comment off of what you had said, if we know somebody is coming, we hope, and they have a problem with it, we will have talked to you ahead of time. We ourselves, and we look at everything, we talk about a committee meeting, but we can research it even harder that's the advantage too. And 5 days might be too terribly long, but that was just another advantage that we had discussed at management, that we have a chance to give it to our solicitor and say, hey.
That's another advantage if you know what the issue is. But again, that's the board's choice how much notice you would like.
I'm glad we're tapping into PSBA. I certainly is one of the main purposes of why we joined. Certainly, I think when I think of policy review, this one would have been number 1, number 2, or even 3 of revision, but here it is. I personally would like to see what PSBA's recommended policy for public input would be. I know that we've had a year of long meetings, and I certainly don't like getting home as late as I have. However, I think that right now there's a lot going on, and I don't want to. I think publicly this looks like a retaliation to public input, and I think in a lot of respects we may be counteracting the whole point of what public input is. So, like I said, I mean, it's neither here nor there, but it certainly isn't the first policy I would have liked to look at with the PSBA. But if you do have the PSBA policy, I would definitely like to see it.
And I'll come back again to, we're not, I don't care if I'm here till midnight. That's what we were elected for, and we'll stay as long as we need to listen to them. But we are a business, and we have to treat our agenda sometimes like it is a business. And what would you say to those lawyers that sat here?
I definitely agree that I don't have a problem at all with the agenda items straight up front and then an open session at the end. But I think everybody should be entitled to speak. I just feel like this has been thrown at us. I haven't had the time to research. I'm not opposed to it. Because you're right, we are a business, and I do. When I look out and I see the sweet little faces sitting out there and being ready to recognize for Student of the Month, and they're listening to all this public input and different things, certainly it is a different atmosphere than we would want to professionally portray. I just am not sure about the process of how this is here, and I just don't feel like I can support it yet. That's all I'm saying.
I think we can do better and be more efficient with our public input. I do not like the 5 days, and I do not like the 30 minutes, because I totally agree with Glenn. If somebody takes the time to come to one of our meetings, that they should be heard. I think 3 minutes is plenty of time to get across multiple points of importance, and I don't think I've heard any speakers in my time on the board that could have made their points in 3 minutes. And many of our public input are done in 3 minutes or less. So I don't see that as a problem either. So I don't know how we do it, the Robert Rules of Order, to propose eliminating the 5-day notice and the 30-minute time limit, but I would like to see those changes to this draft.
So what could we put in instead? So I'm handed 10 green notices here. At what point do you're an agenda, you're not an agenda, you're not. When do we decide? How do we decide how would that work?
And other districts should talk to.
I don't know.
So maybe the form could just say on it what they're going to talk about, but if there is linked to an agenda item, they have to list the agenda item as linked, then you can tell right away this is an agenda item. You can look at it if the agenda item, but maybe have it 5 or 10 minutes prior to the start of the board meeting, or we've been really lax. And to me, I've always kind of said like a kudos to the school board for having a more lax policy for public input, because I think it then encourages that. Yes, we had some major public input, but there are some major things going on, and it's not going to. I mean, if you look at every meeting that I've had in the last 4 years, only not even on my finger or my hand am I going to have ones that a major change in policy is even, to me, warranted. So for myself, I would say just have it that if you want to have, if you have a lot, if it's 5 people talking, you have 5 slips, just do them all at once. And if it's a large number and you need to shift them to the end of the thing, I'm fine with that. I don't even think that we need to make a change on the 5 minutes. 5 minutes is 5 minutes. If most people speak and get their point across in 3 minutes, great. But at least gives those people that like to talk a little more or have more information. I just think it's a huge, we're turning the whole ship around because of a couple of times that it's been an issue. And I think it's like clubbing this thing, and it's a little ant, and you can kill it like that. You don't have to, it's like a little club, It's just like, to me it's overkill, I guess is what I'm saying. I think a minimum change, or a minor change of having 2 times, one for the beginning, and if it's a non-agenda item towards the end, and just have the agenda item, they have to list what it is if they're going to speak prior, that they actually know what agenda item. If they don't know the agenda item, then they get thrown in the back, because that means they haven't done enough research. But I don't think that all these other changes to me are really necessary because it has not been an issue. I mean, yes, when Brichette, that was an issue. It was an issue that really concerned the community, and they needed to let us know that. So that's the purpose of the thing. But I don't see all the other changes personally. I think just a minor tweak to what we have would make it streamlined and would take care of this without, because I can just imagine next week or next month, the public comment on this public comment is going to be, everybody's going to come out now because, it's almost like we want to swell the revolt. Okay, they're all going to come and they're going to complain about us, so let's narrow this down and have 5 days and we'll get them, we'll make it that is going to have the exact opposite effect of what we want. I'm just saying, just make a little tiny change. Just let it be before and after.
Got a suggestion for you. I personally agree with David. I think 3 minutes is enough. Okay. However, we can make an editorial change on this tonight before we vote. And the way it's written right now, it says all individuals wishing to participate in a public board meeting shall register their intent with the board secretary at least 5 days in advance of the meeting and shall include their name and address of the participant, topic to be addressed, and group affiliation if applicable. Individuals may comment on agenda and non-agenda items when the agenda allows. What I'm going to propose is that all we do is strike at least 5 days in advance. In other words, it would read, shall register their intent with the board secretary in advance of the meeting, which is what we do right now.
Understanding the green slip is in advance.
But they would have to list the agenda item that they wish to address or the non-agenda item which they wish to address, so that we can at least collate that prior to the start of the meeting to determine who speaks away. That would eliminate, the wording is the same, it serves the purpose that we're trying to accomplish, but it removes the time frame.
Does it also remove the time frame that how long they're allowed to? That's not the 3 minute thing. No, not the 3 minute thing. I'm talking about the 30 minutes. Is that going to be removed also?
Well, I think it really depends on. First of all, we have the option as a board. In other words, if I was king and I said this is what we're doing, I'm not so king because you guys have the ability to, under this policy, to stop me and vote to eliminate that portion for that evening. But if we have, a very lengthy agenda, as Sue says, that we have business things that we need to address, yes, we could determine that it's important to do that, to limit the discussion so that we can address the business aspects. We may not want to do that, but we could do that if we needed to.
Are you talking in reference to the delegation of responsibility? If the board determines there's not sufficient time? Because I think you're talking about the 30-minute max,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about, correct.
It sounds like you're talking, I'm sorry, Dr. Martel, but I was thinking you were talking about the delegation of responsibility. Because this was another item. If the board determines there's not sufficient time in the meeting for public comments, the comment period can be deferred to the next regular meeting or to a special meeting occurring the presiding officer at each shall follow the board policy, blah, blah. That I don't like.
I don't like that either. If they're here to speak at that night,
They should
That's
be
what I
granted
need
the
to see.
opportunity. That should all.
under which number were you on?
That's number 3, delegation of responsibility. And I think that's my reservation, just to make a couple, I think we have some majority thoughts here in the 5-day notification, but there's a lot in this bold. There's a lot of crossing out and a lot of bold additions that I just haven't had the chance to be able to step back and say, what is that really saying? Because right there, that's one thing we haven't discussed, but that's a huge issue.
Is it possible to readdress this in September and vote on it in October? to give us more time, especially for public input. I mean, I would be curious to see what their perception of this.
I really took to heart what was stated last month or June when, and I mean, hindsight 2020, I was very pleased that we had people call in so we all could weigh in on the vote. But in all honesty, the gentleman who spoke was factual in stating that we did not get to hear public comment before we did that vote.
And I said that was.
No, I know that, and I think we all looked back on that and we're very regretful. And I don't want to have that opportunity, that similar opportunity for voting on something without having the opportunity to hear the public.
And having said that, and I'm not making light of all of his comments, I'm not at all. The budget process had been open for a while.
But there were some good points that we had,
But
you know.
totally right, and I apologize right away as I realized what I had done. It was so hard trying to get the three of them, and I was way too focused on that.
And
And I screwed up.
we were all here, or on the phone. Didn't occur to any of us, so.
Okay, come back again, before I forget, when you said this isn't the policy that we are going to be, we are aligning with PSBA, that they are going to be reviewing all of our policies. This is a 900. We'd be lucky, do you know how long it would take? And that's one of the last ones. And you said you don't know if it's the first one you would have pulled out. This is one of the ones where I think we're farthest away from what school board policy is. So I can understand, I can appreciate you saying it's not the first one you would have pulled out. It would have been a long time till you would have seen this one. And I know, I'll go back to those two lawyers again. They're an important part of our community too. And it was just unfair. And you said about the kids sitting there too. I think they're pretty important too. So come back to you. The one that you said you would scratch is if board determines there's not sufficient time, or is it the one, the presiding officer? You're just looking at
That, if board determines there is not sufficient time, I think that whole paragraph.
could just go away. But the following paragraph,
No, I think we have to maintain, I
Have to
do think
maintain.
we still need to maintain professionalism. And if we get to the point where we're having a riot or people speaking out, I think the presiding officer should have, just for the public so they know what we're talking about, the presiding officer shall follow board policy for conduct of public meetings. Where his or her ruling is disputed, it may be overruled by a majority of those board members present and voting.
we definitely do want that back in, because in some of our good public input, there was one individual that stood up there and we all knew it was not the truth. It was, in my mind, it was almost slander, and probably half the audience out there knew it was not the truth either. And I probably should have shut the individual off, and I did not, and I regret that I did not. So I do feel we need that one in. Okay. So if we take out that paragraph, so that if the board determines that the 1, 2, 3, underneath 3, with the fourth paragraph in, if that were totally deleted, we want to wipe out on the second page on 2 of 4, down there we're listed 5 days in advance, strike the 5, because in advance means they can hand it to the board president right up until the meeting starts. We would strike out at least 5 days. In advance. No, at least 5 days. No, board secretary in advance.
of the meeting. We take another time.
And then on page 3 of 4, we're listed to 30 minutes. That a strike or keep portion of the meeting during which public is invited to speak shall be limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Strike that entire paragraph. I'm hearing more lead in the 3 minutes than take out the 3 minutes. Am I right or wrong?
I'm the timekeeper.
And I'm sitting here watching the time too,
And Dave is right. I'd say more than 90% of the people were done in 3 minutes or less. and those who spoke over 5 minutes are just verbose.
But,
I'm good.
but if it's not, but if it's 90%, so you got a couple people that want to speak 2 minutes longer, I just don't see why.
I'd invite you to come here and watch the timer sometime and be wholeheartedly thinking about what they're saying. And, you know, if somebody's talking for 5 minutes to me or somebody's talking 3 minutes to me, 3 minutes of good, productive conversation, I got it up here. When it starts getting to that 5, I'm losing what I think they're saying.
But
There were some
according to
people
Dan,
who ran over, we just did not stop them.
we could put some things in place to.
So, I mean, somebody's really cranking,
Yeah.
probably look like they're ready to sum up. We kind of let them roll for another 20, 30 seconds,
But what I'm saying, Sue, is from what Dan is saying, that only happens every 100 people, only 5 people, 5, 10 people, when you go over 2 more minutes. So it's not like everyone is. I don't
So
know.
let's
I guess I
multiply
could compromise
and
on this,
divide.
but I'm just not seeing the reason for, like I said, the only change I think, other than, you know, maybe, I thought you had the right to step in if somebody was going, you know, or using foul language or whatever. I was assuming that was
I
already
think
part
for
of
the
it.
vast majority of people, it's not going to matter. For those who are verbose, they're going to need to learn to cut their statement down, and therefore,
They're almost doing a disservice to themselves when they speak, when they go for 5 minutes, my opinion, because they're losing it.
There have been some people though that, I don't know, that I've heard, and I don't have. the
Len, you need to
time,
come over here and
so-
watch the
So I
timer.
don't know the timer, but if, there are some people that I'm assuming probably went to time, but they had facts and they were going over stuff, and I felt it very beneficial, so. But I am willing.
Well, I'll respectfully disagree with you on that.
That's not a game changer for me as much as the other stuff.
Is there anything else in looking at this? Anyone underneath it?
How many public meetings that you go to that their policy is 3 minutes versus 5 minutes?
I can speak anecdotally, I can't say I've looked at all 22 of our school clients' policies on this. I think a good chunk of them are in the 3-minute category. That's in 5 different counties, but I haven't had a town. And with that, because sometimes I'm stuck as being a timekeeper, I take a similar approach. It's not a hard and fast 3 minutes sometimes where you have to, for a judgment, if someone can finish up, try to be liberal and allow people the opportunities to just don't come up with it. So very politely remind them your time's up. So if you ask me off the top of my head, I'd say a lot of our clients, that's in Lancaster, Dauphin, York, Lebanon, Berks, I'd say in the 3-minute range.
And I'd like to direct you to the paragraph right underneath where it talks about limiting to 3 minutes. And I think this is another one that I've been listening to y'all that we should be striking. In case of 2 or more persons, the presiding officer has a right to ask that just one representative act as the spokesman for the group. Thus, only the representative will be given the opportunity to be heard. We can scratch that one. One further down that I think we just need to clarify, it needs to be in here, but I think we need to clarify it. Electronic recording devices and cameras, in addition to those used as official recording devices, shall be permitted at public meetings under guidelines established by the board. And I know, well, it must be you, Dave, expressed the concern that perhaps the camera located there could be getting something off of your. And I would hope that whomever is, well, you just don't know, because if that appears online and what somebody could pull off of it. So I think we do need to, I think it would be too tough to designate it in here because depending where the room is, things might change. But we have to address that one in the future too, but not necessarily in policy. Is that what I kind of heard you say, that we're a little uncomfortable?
Well, my understanding is that even in our current policy, there's a designated place for
There is.
sound, for recorders and cameras, and I don't think, if we're discussing items that the board has that aren't public things, and somebody have that up on their screen and a camera zooming in on that's not the appropriate place for that camera to be. It should be someplace else in the room. Plus, I'm more concerned that the back of my head is not my best side, so I prefer not to be.
I would love to move it, but there's no plugs out here, so that's not an issue. I'm the only one recording. So if I can run an extension cord from there to here, I would be more than happy to do it, but I have to set it up before the meeting starts as to not disrupt according to the sunshine law. So that's why it's over there.
And this is not a
No,
slam
it's fine.
slap or anything.
I would
Okay.
love to move it. I would love to get more to the back of your head. I'm not gonna lie. I'd like to get the kids to get up to speed, but there's no plugs along these walls. I can pull it as long as that's fine. Yep. So that won't be an issue. That is the last time the back of your head will be on camera.
Thank you for that.
My agent thanks you.
Is there anything else?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that comes to, that jumps out at you right now that we haven't talked about that you might have found dissatisfying on here?
So review this whole thing again.
You got it in front of you, Bix?
And we're going to have two separate time frames. The first one is agenda items that people can discuss.
Correct.
At the end, anything else that's not on the agenda that they have concerns about.
Correct.
3 minutes, but as many people can speak as want to speak. If there's 53 minutes, that's fine. And the camera's gonna go so she can get her good side, okay? And you have the right to interrupt anybody who's foul language or anything like that. Anything else that we missed?
There was a, strike in the 5 days advance.
Right. There was no advance. When you come out, you get put on your little green slip what the agenda item is.
I would clarify that there is an advance. They have to be at the beginning of the meeting.
Absolutely.
After the meeting is started,
You can't-
we'll accept
right,
all
you
the
can't-
there will be no longer slips.
Right. You know, if you come in 10 minutes late and now we're trying to hand in slips, okay, and we're into the thing, I agree with that.
And that does happen occasionally.
Or can we put those, if they come in after, then they're automatically, they're just sent to the back of the meeting? Because we can't determine whether they're an agenda item or not.
Right.
I know, I'm throwing a cog in the wheeler. I'm just throwing it out there. So,
I don't have a problem with that. If they want to speak to us, they can speak to me all the time. That's fine. But I don't think they should get, you know, like we need to be shuffling things. That's automatically going to the second pile. That'll work. I'm in favor of it.
We've actually had a motion that's been seconded, and we've been in discussion. We've made editorial changes. Basically, Bonnie, you just reiterated what those changes are. Our tentative draft. We have our committee meeting next month, and then we also have the board meeting next month that can actually change it that day. So I would propose that we vote on the tentative adoption. This as it's been amended.
There's a second.
That's still under discussion. But we're pretty much, if we're done discussing, we're pretty much at the voting stage.
Okay, and that's a motion, motion and a second for the amended stuff. Write that one down, Mary, stuff. Motion. Amy. Shouldn't be any further discussion, so I'm going to call for a roll call vote, please.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Gray,
yes.
Bixler,
Yes.
Sell,
No.
Howe,
Yes.
5 yes, 1 no.
And I have two things. I don't remember what it was. Oh, can we please have this cleaned up version available for public inspection?
Also the PSBA,
Okay,
do you have that you,
For
I thought
you.
you said, yeah, I just would like to see it. I mean, I don't mind looking at it myself, but if someone has to just, that's great.
I would like to see this posted online.
That's the documented document, PSBA?
Just check. I'll show you.
Okay, yeah, this is all news to me, I have to see.
All right, thank you for that. Good discussion, and you have one more item under management.
Right, I was remiss in doing this. I believe there's some new people here that we just hired. If they could among yourselves to decide who wants to go first, if you could stand and tell us your name and a little bit about yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Jay Keck. I just got hired as both an elementary music teacher as well as hired to do tech integration as well for the district. I'm originally from Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. I live in Mechanicsburg right now with my wife. I was actually here as a long-term sub last fall for the middle school doing music. And I've also done some subbing and aid work for Mechanicsburg School District and West Shore School District in the last couple of years. Happy to be here.
I'm Katie Baumberger. I am originally from Granville, graduated from Northern Lebanon. I did my student teaching here. I was at Lickdale for a short-term job, and I was here last year, but at Fredericksburg for a long-term vacancy in second grade, and I've just been hired for fourth grade here at Lickdale. Right now I live in Lebanon with my husband and my 2 children, and I am very excited to be back at Lickdale again and very grateful for the opportunity.
Hi, my name is Jenny Upton. I will be the learning support and emotional support teacher at East Hanover Elementary School. I'm originally from Bucks County, but I just recently graduated from Lebanon Valley College, and I'm very excited to start here at Northern Lebanon. I did recently student teach with Mrs. Kathy Gary in Oakdale, so it's a great opportunity.
Michelle Cottingham. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I live in Lamar with my 2 children. I'm hired as an instructional aide in East Hanover, taught preschool, and worked at other elementary schools.
Thank you very much. Welcome and buckle up. We're ready to start, huh?
And I believe that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Martell. We're going to move on to Programs Committee. Director Sell.
I'd like to move item A.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Gray,
Yes.
Dixon,
Yes.
Sal,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner.
Yes.
All in favor.
And I'd like to move item
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote. Dixon,
Yes.
Sal,
yes, sorry.
Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner. Yes. Gray.
Yes.
All in favor. Any other comments, Amy?
That concludes programs.
And any other questions directed to the Programs Committee? Thanks. And we'll move on to Property and Service Committee, Director Gray.
Move item A.
Second.
Thanks, Dave.
Discussion? Roll call vote. Sal,
Yes.
Howe,
Yes.
Martell,
Yes.
Warner. Yes. Gray,
Yes.
Dixon.
Yes.
All in favor. Any other comments that you have?
No.
All right, I've got one for you, but it's probably going to direct this way more. Once again, tonight, I had to go out of my way because the bridge is still closed. Will the Lickdale Bridge be open before the start of school?
My wife asked me that, and I don't know the answer, so.
We're not exactly sure yet either, so we're getting contingencies for all ends.
Because believe it or not, this body was tubing on Sunday, and I'm underneath that bridge, and I'm looking up, and I thought, oh, Lord have mercy on us, please be finished. So we just have plans, huh? So the plan, the cards that go out to each elementary student, advising them of where their bus, pick up, stop, and all that kind of good stuff.
If it's not done, we're gonna have to redo it and contact those people.
So
Bridge is not done.
So the card is going out, assuming the bridge is not finished?
I'll have to check with Matt to confirm, but that's what my initial thought was.
Okay, and then we'll jump up and down for joy if it gets done, and then we'll spend more money and send out more cards because we gotta do it. Okay. Any other comments or questions for Director Gray? If not, let's move on to the superintendent's report.
You have 4 brief items. District enrollment figures, and that changes obviously this time of year on a daily basis. Welcome back letter from me that went out to the district staff that signifies the total end of summer. The 15-16 focus goals, as well as the most recent school intervention grant approval from PDE.
Any questions for Dr. Bell specifically to his superintendent's report? Or any other questions you'd like answered at this time? Not, we'll move on to the reports of representatives, starting with Dr. Martell, Career and Tech. Sir?
As here, like we actually met here last month, but Career and Technology did not. We start again next week for our meetings for the school year. We do remain in negotiations there also, and we're tentatively trying to get dates set up to continue that. That's it.
And as for the IU13, we did not meet in July. Our meeting is tomorrow night, thankfully in Lebanon. And we still do not have a contract, though it hasn't expired yet, for our classified staff. I did send something today just so that you get a better feel of some of the things that goes on that the IU13 puts on. Services, how they service our children and some of our adults. I hope you take time to read that. I continue to send you reports from Dr. Brian Barnhart. I think they're very timely and well stated and easy to understand about how the budget is not progressing, reasons for it, things that are going on behind the doors, so that we get an idea. But as of right now, or maybe we'll say that, no, Steve's not here. We have no idea on this budget at all what's happening in the state. Any questions? Not, Rachel will be our HAC representative, but there has not been a meeting yet that I know of. Moving on to EIT, TCC, Dave.
No report.
Legislative, Steve is not here. Does anybody have any comments legislatively? And I hope you're all taking the time to read. I hope you're all taking the time to read the information that PSBA puts out. And like I said, you're going to get something almost every day. Some of it is really good stuff. Some of it gets, you kind of get sick and tired reading about it. But really good articles on the PSSA right now and how schools are reacting. Budget, Keystone. So I ask that, and be an informed board, please be reading the stuff that they're sending out. Amy, on to the rec commission.
You have the minutes from the July meeting. The next meeting is next Monday, middle school at 6:30. Since the last meeting, the big event, of course, was National Night Out. So on behalf of Suzanne and the rec commission, I definitely want to thank the board's support for recognizing that important night to bring the community together. There was a large presence of people from the board area, many principals. It was nice to see that support. So thank you. I think it was well attended and a big success.
So who won our basket?
We didn't do a basket. Nobody said they wanted to do it.
I thought you gave me money for a basket.
Last year.
The time flies by pretty fast. I have given you money if you'd have asked. No, I'm sorry.
Last month I said, I'm willing to put a basket together if anybody wants to give me money.
Okay, strike that from the record.
Next year, double. I'm holding you to it. And you're doing spin on it.
I'll give him a turkey.
Hey, that'll be good.
Okay, any other questions for the rec commission, about the rec commission? Okay, not move on to new business. We do have one item under new business. this, and PSBA is going to really help us along. However, there's lots of things we have to do now that we haven't had to do for a while. So the election of the state officers is coming up, and the board will be casting one vote, and Mary will be casting the vote for us, but we all need to be prepared for who we are going to be supporting, and we're going to be doing that at the September meeting. Does everybody understand that? So please take time to look at the candidates. I admit I haven't looked at them yet. Anything else under new business? Okay, before we adjourn, there's lots and lots of dates there to remember. Happy to see all of the back to school nights, and I hope our elementary principals are all ready and geared up and psyched and all ready to go. All right. One I do want to call your attention to that I don't think enough people attend, but I think Mr. Yavich is going to be out there drumming the ground. The Community Pep Rally. Can you say a little bit about it to encourage people?
Well, we have been in discussion with the coaches. They're going to be having their, for lack of a better term, booths, and they're going to have little activities for, like they did last year. The band is going to be there, and the athletes are going to be there.
And I really think we should all be out there supporting them. The band, this is their first time out, and they're playing, and they're a little bit nervous, and they can make a couple of mistakes, but till the end of the season, I hope you're there at the beginning so you can hear what they sound like at the end, because good stuff. So I do encourage board members to get there for the Community Pep Rally and support the groups. Like Mr. Yamich said, they have booths, and they raise a little bit of money, nice community spirit going on there, so please try to be there. That will be on August 27th at 6. Maybe we have a meeting. Some of us might not be there.
Just be there in spirit.
I will be there in spirit. We will be here. All right, so much for my spiel there. Okay. Anything else under dates to remember or anything else to be brought before the board yet this evening?
I guess this would be the new business for the future. Dr. Bell, will Keystones and PSSA data be prepared for us for next month? Can we anticipate that?
State's supposed to be releasing the information tomorrow, so whatever the format is there, I'll send it to you like I did already.
I had asked if we are suffering the same fate as everybody else, and yes, we are.
When you said you sent it already.
You should have an email, rough data.
I did not get that, but you know I'd be all over it. No.
I'll send you the rough data.
That
There's second one. What's happening here?
I don't know.
Where's Nate Tyler when you need him? No, I didn't see anything either.
Is that what Central Dauphin was looking at, rough data versus,
State doesn't release the actual data yet. It should be tomorrow, is what we've gotten. But it doesn't mean we delay it. From what we understand, it's tomorrow.
But I definitely would like to see that.
Okay, any other questions to be brought before the board? If not, meeting adjourned.
oh,